The Grand Conquered Chamber was the most beautiful room in the known galaxy. Its walls curved upward like the inside of a shell, covered in living crystal that glowed with soft blue light. 12 great seats formed a circle at its center, each one built to fit a different species. Some were filled with water. Some were heated to temperatures that would kill most beings. One was simply a platform of polished stone where the crystalline ambassador could rest their geometric body. Today, all 12 seats were occupied. The Galactic Council had gathered for the annual peace accords, and this year, the stakes were higher than they had been in centuries. Ambassador of the N Collective stood at the central podium. She was tall and slender, with pale blue skin and 4 arms that moved gracefully as she spoke. Her voice was calm, but everyone in the room could feel the tension beneath her words. "We are here to address the territorial dispute between the Dominion and the crystalline hegemony," she said. 3 sectors stand at the edge of war. Billions of lives hang in the balance. I call upon both parties to speak with wisdom and restraint. The ambassador rose from his seat. He was a massive creature, covered in dark scales, with 6 eyes that burned like small fires. His voice rumbled like distant thunder. "The crystalline hegemony has violated our ancient borders. We demand." He never finished his sentence. Every light in the chamber flickered. A low alarm began to sound, soft at first, then louder. The crystalline walls pulsed with red warning colors that no one in the room had ever seen before. "What is happening?" the delegate asked. There were small beings with large eyes and skin that glowed with their emotions. Right now, that skin was flashing with patterns of fear and confusion. High Arbiter, the eldest member of the council, checked the display built into his seat. He was an ancient creature, his body more machine than flesh after centuries of life extension. His voice crackled when he spoke. "An unidentified vessel has entered the station. It bypassed all security measures. It is already docked." "Impossible," the emissary clicked. There were beings who shared a hive mind. When one of them spoke, it spoke for millions. "Our security systems are perfect. Nothing can bypass them without authorization." "And yet," said slowly, "something has." The great doors of the chamber began to open. Every ambassador in the room turned to look. Some reached for hidden weapons. Others prepared to flee. The crystalline ambassador's body began to vibrate at frequencies that could shatter bone. 5 figures walked into the room. They were bipedal. 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head. Their skin came in different shades of brown and pink. They wore simple uniforms with a small emblem on the chest, a blue sphere with a single green branch wrapped around it. They walked calmly, without fear, without weapons drawn. The one in front was a female of their species, with hair that was black streaked with silver. Her eyes were dark and steady as she looked around the room at the most powerful beings in the galaxy. The room had gone completely silent. The delegate's skin had turned pure white with terror. The emissary had frozen in place, every one of its limbs locked. The ambassador had taken 3 steps backward, his 6 eyes wide with something that looked very much like fear. Even the crystalline ambassador had stopped vibrating. Its geometric body had pulled inward, becoming smaller, defensive. The silver-haired female stopped in the center of the room. She looked at each ambassador in turn, then spoke. Her voice was clear and calm. "We apologize for the intrusion. We are the Terran Diplomatic Corps, representing the United Earth Government. We believe it is time we introduced ourselves." No one responded. The silence stretched on for what felt like hours. Finally, Ambassador found her voice. What are you?" The female smiled. It was a small smile, not threatening, but somehow that made it more unsettling. "We are humans. We come from a small planet in an isolated system on the edge of this galaxy. You know it as Quarantine Zone 7. We call it Earth." The ambassador made a sound that might have been a gasp. The delegate actually fell from their seat. All around the room, the most powerful beings in the galaxy reacted with pure, primal fear. But it was High Arbiter who spoke the word that explained everything. His ancient voice was barely a whisper, but in the silent room, everyone heard it clearly. The sleepers. The human female tilted her head slightly. Is that what you call us? Interesting. We have wondered what name you gave us. You should not be here, the emissary said. Its voice was shaking in a way that no voice had ever shaken before. The barriers, the containment field, you should not be able to leave your system. The containment field was impressive, the human said. It took us nearly a decade to understand it. Another 2 decades to find a way through it without triggering your alarms. We have been watching you for 60 years now. Watching us, repeated. Learning your languages, studying your cultures, understanding your conflicts. The human paused. We know why you are here today. We know about the war that is about to begin, and we know something that you do not. What could you possibly know that we do not? The ambassador growled. But there was no real strength in his voice. He was afraid, and everyone could see it. We know who started this conflict, the human said. We know why, and we know how to stop it. She reached into her uniform and pulled out a small device. Several ambassadors flinched, but she simply held it up so everyone could see. This contains information that will change everything you believe about this war. We offer it freely, with no conditions. All we ask is that you listen. High Arbiter stared at the human for a long moment. In his thousands of years of life, he had seen many things. He had watched empires rise and fall. He had survived 3 galactic wars, but he had never felt fear like this. It was not the fear of being attacked. It was something deeper. It was the fear of realizing that everything you believed was wrong. Why, he asked finally, why come now, why help us? The human female looked at him with those strange, steady eyes. Because you are about to make a terrible mistake. Billions will die. And despite what you did to us, despite 12,000 years of imprisonment, we do not want that. She took a step forward. No one moved to stop her. We are not here as enemies, she said. We are not here as conquerors. We are here because we have learned through long and painful experience that some problems cannot be solved alone. She held out the device. Will you listen? The 12 most powerful beings in the galaxy looked at each other. They looked at the small group of humans standing calmly in their sacred chamber. They felt their fear, ancient and deep. And slowly, one by one, they nodded. The council moved to a smaller room, a private chamber where difficult conversations could happen away from the formal protocols of the Grand Conquered. The 12 ambassadors sat on one side. The 5 humans sat on the other. Between them was a table made of living wood that grew from the floor itself. High Arbiter was the first to speak. His ancient mechanical body hummed as he leaned forward. Before we hear what you have to say, we must understand something. How did you find us? How did you break through the containment field? We need to know what we are dealing with. The silver-haired human who had introduced herself as ambassador nodded slowly. Those are fair questions, but first I would like to ask something of you. You are in no position to make demands, the ambassador growled. It is not a demand, said calmly. It is a request. Before we share our story, we would like to hear yours. What do your records say about us? What do you believe about humanity? The ambassadors exchanged glances. This was not what they had expected. Was quiet for a moment. Then he sighed, a strange sound from his mechanical lungs. Very well, you deserve to know what we know. He paused, gathering his thoughts. 12,000 years ago, a survey fleet was exploring the outer edges of the galaxy. They found a small yellow star with 8 planets. The 3rd planet had life. Listened without expression. The other humans sat equally still. The survey team observed your world for 3 standard years, continued. What they found disturbed them. Your species was primitive by our standards. You had not yet discovered metal. You lived in small tribes fighting over territory and resources. That does not sound unusual, said one of the other humans, a tall man with dark skin named Dr. James. Many species must pass through such a stage. True, agreed. But your species was different. The survey team noticed things that did not fit any pattern they had seen before. What things? Asked. The delegate spoke up. Their skin was still pale with lingering fear, but their voice was steady. Your emotions. We are empaths. We can feel the emotional states of other beings. When our ancestors observed your people, they felt something they had never encountered. And what was that? Everything all at once, the shuddered. Most species have emotions that flow in patterns. Calm, then anger, then calm again. But your kind felt joy and rage and sorrow and hope all at the same time. It was like looking into a storm that never ended. Nodded slowly. We call that being human. There was more, said. Your aggression levels were far beyond what was necessary for survival. You fought wars over ideas, over stories, over things that did not exist. You killed your own kind in numbers that shocked our scientists. And yet, the N ambassador added, you also showed cooperation that made no sense. Tribes that had been enemies for generations would suddenly unite against a common threat. Individuals would sacrifice themselves to save strangers. You were unpredictable in ways that frightened us. But the thing that scared us most, said, was your adaptability. In the 3 years the survey team watched, your species had already begun to change. You were learning faster than any species we had ever observed. You were spreading across your planet at a rate that our models said was impossible. The emissary spoke, its voice clicking with each word. The council debated for 10 years. Some wanted to make contact. Some wanted to destroy your world before you became a threat. In the end, we chose a middle path. The containment field said. Yes, we built a barrier around your entire system. It was not meant to keep you in. It was meant to hide the galaxy from you. We hoped that without knowledge of us you would contain yourselves. You thought we would destroy ourselves, said. It was not a question. Yes, admitted. Every model we ran predicted it. A species with your aggression, your volatility, your capacity for self-destruction. It seemed certain that you would tear yourselves apart within a few thousand years. But we did not. No, you did not. His mechanical voice held something that might have been wonder. Every few centuries, we sent probes to check on your progress. Each time, we expected to find ruins. Each time, we found you had grown stronger. He activated a display showing images of Earth through the ages. Pyramids and temples, cities and empires, ships crossing oceans, machines taking to the sky. You went from bronze tools to splitting atoms in 5,000 years. Do you understand how fast that is? Most species take 50,000 years to make that journey. Some never make it at all. And when you split the atom, said softly, we thought surely this was the end. You would use these weapons to destroy yourselves. We came close, admitted, several times. But you did not. And then, 60 years ago, something happened that we still do not understand. Looked at her with his ancient eyes. You found the containment field. Smiled slightly. One of our space telescopes detected an anomaly at the edge of our system. It took us 8 years to figure out what it was. Another 12 years to understand how it worked. And then we had a choice to make. You could have tried to destroy it, the ambassador said, to break free. We could have, but we decided to do something else first, leaned forward. We decided to watch, to learn, to understand who had put us in a cage and why. 60 years, said. We have spent 60 years studying your languages, your cultures, your histories. We have watched your wars and your peace treaties. We have learned your fears and your hopes. And what did you learn? Asked. Was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was gentle. We learned that you were afraid. Not evil, not cruel, just afraid. You looked at us and saw something you did not understand, something that did not fit your models, and fear makes people do terrible things. She reached across the table, a gesture that made several ambassadors flinch. We know this because we have done terrible things out of fear ourselves. We have locked away those we did not understand. We have destroyed what we could not control. We are not so different from you. Then why are you here? Asked. If you know what we did, why would you help us? Looked at him with those steady human eyes. Because we have learned something in our long and bloody history. Hate is expensive. It costs more than it is worth. Understanding is cheaper and it pays better. She stood up. You asked why we came now. The answer is simple. You are about to start a war that will kill billions. We know how to stop it. And despite everything, we do not want to see that happen. Why should we trust you? The ambassador demanded. Why should we trust the galaxy's apex predators? Smiled that small, unsettling smile. Because apex predators do not need to lie. She activated the device she had brought, and the room filled with light. Now, let us show you who really started this war. The holographic display filled the room with images and data. Star maps appeared, showing the disputed territory between the Dominion and the crystalline hegemony. Trade routes were marked in different colors. Dates and timestamps scrolled along the edges. Ambassador stood at the center of it all, her figure outlined by the blue glow of the projections. 15 years ago, the Dominion filed a claim to the corridor. They presented historical documents proving that this region had belonged to their ancestors 4,000 years ago. She gestured and a document appeared. It was covered in script, official seals stamped across its surface. This document is a forgery. The ambassador shot to his feet. How dare you? Those records were by our own historians. They are authentic. They are very good forgeries, agreed calmly. It took us 3 years to confirm it, but if you look here, she pointed to a section of the document, you will see a phrase that did not exist in the language 4,000 years ago. It is a modern construction. Someone made a mistake. The room was silent. The ambassador's scales had gone pale. Continued. The question is not whether the documents are false. The question is who created them and why. She changed the display. Now it showed the crystalline hegemony's territory. 6 months after the filed, their claim, crystalline mining vessels were detected in the corridor. They called this an act of aggression, but look at what the crystalline were actually doing. The image zoomed in on a section of space, filled with glowing clouds of gas and dust. This is a spawning ground. For the crystalline, these regions are sacred. They are where new crystalline life begins, and these particular spawning grounds were being poisoned. The crystalline ambassador's geometric body pulsed with colors of distress. How did you know this? We told no one. We watched, said simply. We have been watching for 60 years. We saw what happened. She pulled up more images. Ships marked with false identifications. Containers of toxic chemicals, dates and coordinates. Someone was deliberately poisoning your spawning grounds. They used ships that were designed to look like mining vessels. The crystalline sent their own ships to investigate, and they saw this as an invasion. The uncrystalline ambassadors looked at each other. For the first time, there was something other than hatred in their eyes. But who, asked, who would do such a thing? Change the display again. This time it showed a web of connections. Companies, individuals, bank accounts. The web stretched across the galaxy, touching 4 different council species. Them. The room erupted. Ambassadors shouted over each other. Accusations flew. The delegate's skin was flashing so many colors it looked like a broken rainbow. Waited. Slowly the noise died down. Everyone turned back to her. What you are looking at is a network of weapons manufacturers from 4 council species. They have been working together for over 20 years. Their goal is simple: create wars that will require both sides to buy weapons. This is a serious accusation, High Arbiter said. His voice was hard. Do you have proof? Everything you see here is proof. Financial records, communication logs, ship tracking data. We gathered it over the past 60 years. Paused. We have been very thorough. The emissary clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. Even if this is true, how do we know you did not create these documents? You have already shown you can forge things that look authentic. It was a fair point, nodded in acknowledgement. You do not know. That is why we are giving you all of our data, every file, every record, every piece of evidence we have collected. You can verify it yourselves using your own methods. We will hide nothing. She pulled out a small crystal and placed it on the table. This contains everything. Take it, study it. If we are lying, you will find out. No one moved to take the crystal. They all stared at it like it might explode. You have spent 12,000 years building a civilization based on careful lies and hidden agendas, said. You keep secrets from each other. You manipulate and scheme. It is how you survive. She looked around the room, meeting every pair of eyes. We spent 12,000 years learning to survive each other. Do you know what that teaches you? How to find lies, how to see through manipulation, how to know when someone is not telling the truth. She pointed at the web of connections still floating in the air. These beings thought they were clever. They thought their scheme was perfect. But they made thousands of small mistakes over 20 years. We found every single one. The ambassador sat down heavily. His scales had gone from pale to dark. If this is true, we almost went to war based on lies. Millions of my people would have died for nothing. Billions, corrected gently. On both sides, and in the chaos, these weapons makers would have become rich beyond imagination. Silence fell again. It was a different kind of silence now. Not the silence of fear, but the silence of beings whose world had just shifted under their feet. Finally spoke, "What do you want from us?" Tilted her head, "What do you mean?" You did not come here just to share information. You could have sent this data anonymously. You could have exposed this network without ever revealing yourselves. But you chose to come in person, to show us what you are. Why? Was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer than before. Because stopping this war is not enough. The conditions that created it still exist. The fear, the secrets, the manipulation. If we do not address those things, another war will come, and another, and another. She looked at the 12 ambassadors. We are offering our help, not as rulers, not as judges, as mediators. Mediators, repeated. You do not trust each other. You have too much history, too many old wounds, but you do not know us. We have no alliances here, no territory to gain, no old enemies to punish. Spread her hands. We are outsiders, and sometimes that is exactly what you need. Someone who can stand in the middle and see both sides clearly. The ambassador let out a harsh laugh. You expect us to let the sleepers mediate our conflicts, the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Yes, said simply, because sometimes the most dangerous being in the room is the only one everyone is willing to listen to. Stared at her for a long moment, and if we refuse? His expression did not change. Then we go home, we close our doors and wait. History suggests you will call us eventually. The only question is how many will be dead by then. She picked up the crystal and held it out. We are not asking you to trust us. We are asking you to verify what we have given you, and then decide. Slowly, with a hand that trembled slightly, High Arbiter reached out and took the crystal. We will verify everything, he said, and then we will decide. Nodded, that is all we ask. She turned and walked toward the door, her team falling into step behind her. At the threshold, she paused and looked back. You called us the sleepers. You thought we would sleep forever or destroy ourselves, but we did neither. We woke up, and now we are here. She smiled that small, steady smile. Welcome to the future. And then she was gone, leaving 12 of the most powerful beings in the galaxy sitting in stunned silence. The council called a recess. They needed time to verify the human evidence, and perhaps more importantly, they needed time to think. The station's guest quarters were open to the human delegation, and the ambassadors scattered to process what had happened. But curiosity is a powerful thing. One by one, members of the council found reasons to seek out the humans in private. The delegate found Dr. James sitting alone in one of the station's garden domes. He was looking at a small tree that grew in a pot of alien soil, its leaves a deep purple color that did not exist on Earth. They approached carefully. Their empathic senses were already reaching out, trying to understand this strange being. "May I sit with you?" they asked. Smiled warmly. "Of course, I would be glad for the company." They settled onto a bench nearby. For a long moment, they simply observed the human, feeling the constant flow of emotions that radiated from him. "I must ask you something," they said finally. "When we first observed your species, our ancestors were overwhelmed by what they felt. Your emotional state is chaotic. You feel everything at once. Joy and sorrow, hope and fear, love and anger, all mixed together all the time." Nodded slowly. "Yes, that sounds about right." "How do you function? How do you think clearly? How do you make decisions when your inner world is such a storm?" Considered the question carefully. "Practice," he said at last. "Lots and lots of practice." They waited for more. "We are born feeling everything," continued. "From our first breath, we experience the full range of what it means to be alive. It is overwhelming. Many of us struggle with it our whole lives." "Then how do you survive?" "We learn to ride the storm. We do not try to stop feeling. We cannot. Instead, we learn which feelings to act on and which to simply acknowledge. We learn that we can be afraid and still be brave. We can be angry and still be kind. We can be sad and still find reasons to laugh." The skin shifted to colors of deep thought. "That sounds exhausting." "Laugh softly. It is, but it is also what makes us who we are. Our art, our music, our stories, they all come from that storm. Without it, we would be much less." In another part of the station, Lieutenant was being questioned by the emissary. The being had requested a private meeting and had agreed without hesitation. They did not waste time with pleasantries. "We wish to understand human warfare." Raised an eyebrow. "That is a big topic." "We have read your history. We know the numbers. You have fought thousands of wars. You have killed hundreds of millions of your own kind. And yet your species not only survived but grew stronger. This makes no sense to our models." Was quiet for a moment. "What do you want to know?" "Everything." So told them. She talked about the first wars, fought with rocks and sticks. She talked about empires that rose and fell. She talked about the great wars that consumed entire continents, where machines were built for the sole purpose of killing as many people as possible. They listened in horrified silence. "This is madness," they said when she finished. "You are a species that constantly destroys itself. How can you possibly still exist?" Smiled, but it was a sad smile. "Because we also learned something else. We learned that cooperation is more powerful than competition. It just took us a very long time to figure that out." "How long?" "We are still figuring it out. Every war taught us something. Every mistake made us wiser. We learned that the tribes who worked together survived better than those who fought alone. We learned that trade was more profitable than theft. We learned that enemies could become allies if you gave them a reason." She looked at them with steady eyes. "We are not a peaceful species. We may never be. But we have learned to choose when to fight and when to talk. And we have learned that talking usually works better." Meanwhile, Ambassador had sought out herself. The inn found the human leader in an observation room, looking out at the stars. "May I join you?" asked. Nodded, "Please." They stood together in silence for a while. watching the lights of distant ships move across the darkness. "I must ask you something," said finally, "something I cannot stop thinking about." "Ask." "We imprisoned your species for 12,000 years. We took away your chance to explore the stars. We decided you were too dangerous to be allowed into the galaxy." Turned to face her. "Why do you not hate us?" Was quiet for a long moment. "We did hate you," she admitted. "When we first discovered the truth about the containment field, we were furious. For about 10 years, there was serious discussion about what we should do. Some wanted to break through immediately and demand answers. Some wanted revenge." "What changed?" "We grew up," smiled slightly. "We realized that hate would not give us back those 12,000 years. It would not undo what was done. All it would do is poison our future." She looked at with those calm, dark eyes. "You were afraid of us. We understand fear. We have done terrible things because of it. If we punish you for being afraid, we punish ourselves as well." His forearms trembled slightly. "I do not know if I could be so forgiving." "It is not forgiveness," said. "Not exactly. It is practicality. Hate costs energy. Understanding costs less and gives more in return." In the station's arboretum, the youngest member of the human team was having an unexpected encounter. Was only 23 years old, the member of the diplomatic corps. He had wandered away from the others to clear his head. That was when he found the child. It was a crystalline but small, only about half a meter tall. Its geometric body was simpler than the adult's, with fewer facets. It was hiding behind a flowering bush, watching him with facets that flickered with fear. Stopped, he slowly sat down on the ground, making himself as small and non-threatening as possible. "Hello," he said softly. The child did not respond, but it did not run away either. Thought for a moment. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a square piece of paper. It was something he always carried, a habit from childhood. Slowly, carefully, he began to fold the paper. His fingers moved with practiced ease, creating creases and shapes. The crystalline child watched, fascinated. Within a few minutes, held up the finished product. It was a crane, a bird made of folded paper. He set it on the ground between them. The child crept forward slowly. Its small facets examined the crane from every angle. Then, with careful movements, it picked it up. Smiled. "It is called origami, the art of folding paper." The child held the crane up to what might have been its face. Its body pulsed with colors of wonder and delight. That was how the child's guardians found them 5 minutes later. They had been searching frantically, terrified that one of the dangerous humans had found their young one. Instead, they found the crystalline child sitting next to a human, holding a paper bird and making sounds that could only be laughter. High Arbiter watched all of this through the station's security feeds. His aide stood beside him, equally silent. "What do you see?" asked finally. His aide considered the question. "I see beings who should not exist, who should have destroyed themselves long ago, who have every reason to hate us but choose not to." "And what does that tell you?" The aide was quiet for a long moment. "It tells me that we were wrong," he said slowly. "We built a cage around the wrong species. We were not protecting the galaxy from them." He looked at the image of the young human, patiently teaching a crystalline child how to fold paper. "We were protecting them from us." Nodded slowly. For the first time in centuries, he felt something he had almost forgotten. Hope. 48 hours had passed since the humans arrived at the station. In that time, everything had changed. The Council's verification teams had worked without rest, checking every piece of evidence the humans had provided. They cross-referenced data, analyzed documents, traced financial records, and everything the humans had shown them was true. The weapons manufacturing network was real. The forged documents were real. The poisoned spawning grounds were real. 4 council species had members who had conspired to start a war for profit. Arrests had already begun across the galaxy. But more importantly, the uncrystalline delegations had spoken to each other directly for the first time in 15 years, not through intermediaries, not through formal diplomatic channels, face to face, with the humans serving as neutral witnesses. The talks had been difficult. Old anger does not disappear overnight, but they had talked, and that was more than anyone had expected. Now the council had gathered one final time in the grand conquered chamber. The crystals in the walls glowed with soft gold light, a color reserved for moments of great significance. Ambassador stood at the center of the room, her team behind her. She looked out at the 12 most powerful beings in the galaxy, and they looked back at her. High Arbiter spoke first. "We have your evidence. The conspirators have been identified and will face justice. The war between the Dominion and the crystalline hegemony has been prevented." Nodded, "We are glad to have helped." "But that leaves a larger question," leaned forward. "What happens now? You have revealed yourselves to the galaxy. The containment field is meaningless if you can pass through it at will. What does humanity want?" Every eye in the room focused on. This was the moment they had all been waiting for. This was where the humans would make their demands. Was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was calm and measured. "We are not requesting membership in the council." A ripple of surprise went through the room. "We are not claiming territory. We are not demanding compensation for 12,000 years of isolation. We are not seeking revenge." The ambassador shifted in his seat. "Then what do you want?" Smiled slightly. "You feared us because we were unknown. You spent 12,000 years imagining what we might become, monster or savior, threat or tool." She spread her hands. "We think it is only fair that you have the chance to actually know us, to see who we really are, not who you imagined us to be." She outlined the proposal: cultural exchanges starting small, academic partnerships where human and alien scholars could learn from each other, trade agreements carefully structured to benefit both sides, no military alliances, no territorial expansion, just contact. "We are not asking you to trust us," said. "Trust must be earned. We are asking for the chance to earn it." The council members looked at each other. After what they had witnessed in the past 48 hours, no one knew quite how to respond. "This is unprecedented," the ambassador said. "No species has ever been offered membership in the galactic community and refused it." "We are not refusing," clarified. "We are simply saying not yet. You have had 12,000 years to build your civilization. We have had 60 years to learn about it. We need time to adjust, and so do you." "You are giving us time to prepare for you," the emissary observed. "Yes, and we are giving ourselves time to prepare for you. Integration should be gradual. Too fast and there will be misunderstandings, conflicts, fear." Shook her head. "We have had enough of fear." The vote was called. They voted yes immediately. After their conversation with Doctor, they had become the humans' strongest supporters. The N voted yes. The crystalline voted yes, their spokesperson nodding that any species that could teach a child to fold paper birds could not be entirely without value. One by one, the votes came in. The abstained. They were still processing what they had learned about human warfare and needed more time. The voted no. Their pride would not allow them to vote otherwise, not so soon after being humiliated by the revelation of the forged documents. But it did not matter. When the final count was made, 9 species had voted in favor. Humanity was formally recognized. The chamber fell silent. History had just been made. Looked around the room one final time. "Thank you. We know this was not an easy decision. We know there are still many among you who fear us. That is understandable. Fear does not disappear because of a vote." She paused. "But we believe that curiosity is stronger than fear. We believe that the desire to know is more powerful than the desire to hide. We spent 12,000 years alone, wondering what was out there. Now we finally have the chance to find out." She dipped her head in a gesture of respect. "We will not waste it." The formal session ended. Ambassadors began to file out, many stopping to exchange words with the human delegation. Some were stiff and formal. Others were surprisingly warm. The delegate actually touched Doctor's hand, a gesture of deep respect in their culture. Slipped away from the crowd. She needed a moment alone. She found her way to an observation deck on the outer edge of the station. The view was spectacular. Stars scattered across the blackness like diamonds on dark cloth. Ships moved between them, trading vessels and passenger liners and scientific expeditions. The traffic of a living galaxy. For the first time in 12,000 years, human eyes watched this scene openly. Footsteps behind her. Did not turn around, she knew those footsteps. Stepped up beside her. The young diplomat looked exhausted but happy. "It is beautiful," he said. "Yes, it is." They stood in silence for a while, watching the ships pass. "Ambassador," said finally, "do you think they will ever stop being afraid of us?" Considered the question. Maybe, probably not entirely. Fear is hard to unlearn. It is built into the way they see us. The sleepers, the apex predators, the storm that never ends. "Does that bother you?" Thought about it. She thought about 12,000 years of isolation. She thought about the moment they discovered the containment field and realized they had been caged like animals. She thought about the anger and the hurt and the long, slow process of deciding what to do about it. "No," she said finally. "Fear kept us apart, but curiosity brought us together, and in the end, curiosity won." She smiled, a real smile this time, not the careful diplomatic expression she had worn throughout the negotiations. "I will bet on curiosity every time." Below them, in the station's arboretum, something wonderful was happening. The crystalline child had returned to its clustermates, the small community of young crystalline who traveled with the delegation. It was showing them the paper crane, holding it up so they could examine it from every angle. The other children were fascinated. They had never seen anything like it. A simple piece of paper folded into something beautiful, something that served no practical purpose at all, something made purely for the joy of making it. The child tried to explain what a gift was. It was a difficult concept. The crystalline did not have gifts in the same way humans did. They shared resources based on need and efficiency. But this was different. The human had made this thing and given it away freely, not because the child needed it, not because it served any purpose, simply because he wanted to. The other children flickered with confusion and wonder. The first child held up the crane carefully, watching the light play across its folded wings. Somewhere out in the galaxy, a new relationship was beginning. It would not be easy. There would be misunderstandings and conflicts and setbacks. Fear would not disappear overnight. Old prejudices would take generations to fade. But something had changed. A door had opened that could not be closed again. Humanity had finally joined the galaxy, not as conquerors or servants, not as monsters or saviors. As neighbors. And that was enough. Above the arboretum, visible through the transparent ceiling, the stars continued their endless dance. They had burned for billions of years before life had emerged to look up at them. They would burn for billions more after the last living creature had gone. But for this one moment, in this one place, beings from different worlds looked up at the same stars and wondered the same thing. What comes next? No one knew the answer. And that was the most exciting part of all.